Greetings, Cook-Along listeners. I'm Horatio Fairburn, the temporary host of the Cook-Along podcast, and today we're going to be making some salmon patties. Not just any salmon patties, though. My partner, North, is going to be actually doing their mother's recipe. Hello, North. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, glad to be here.
Tell us why you decided to share this recipe with us.
This recipe has been a favorite of mine and in my family for as long as I can remember. It's lasted the test of time, and my whole family loves it. I've always loved it, and I kind of want to bring that joy to the world.
That's great. To make these delicious salmon patties, you are going to need a can opener, a rolling pin and a Ziploc, a bowl large enough to put all our ingredients into. You're going to want a knife to chop up some of the vegetables if you're adding a good number of seasonings. You're going to need a frying pan and a spatula. You'll want, of course, a stove to fry these on. If you are using canned salmon like we are, you'll want a strainer. That's all of the equipment you'll need, although you may want to have a plate ready to put these on once you are done frying them up. As for ingredients, we're going to be using some canned salmon. Would it work with fresh salmon?
It would. My mother used to make it with fresh salmon, but then it just became too cost prohibitive. So that's why we're going to use canned salmon today. It's just as good, and it's cheaper, easier, and I think it tastes just as good. So why wouldn't you use canned salmon?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a patty instead of like a fillet or something.
Yeah, with the fillet, just getting it from the seafood department, you would have to bake the salmon first and then flake it out because we're forming it into patties, and that just adds a whole nother step.
The canned salmon we have is in the 14.75 ounce size. So nearly 15 ounces, although that includes liquid, will probably get drained out. So it might be closer to 14 ounces. 1 egg per can. We're going to be doing 2 cans of salmon, right?
Yes.
So,
and the egg is for binding, to keep it all held together.
Great. And a sleeve of Ritz crackers. Is that per can?
The sleeve of Ritz crackers, I think a sleeve per 2 cans. So for the entire recipe, 1 sleeve.
I noticed you don't actually have a recipe written down.
Yes, my mom does all of her cooking from memory, so that's how I learned to cook. She doesn't have a big recipe book or Dropbox of recipes like your mother does. She's just always done things with her instinct, and she has a pretty good cooking instinct because she's made some pretty great recipes like this one. So that's how I learned how to cook, and that's how I cook to this day. If 1 sleeve tends to not be enough, then just add another half a sleeve.
Yeah, and we'll take some pictures so that you can see exactly kind of what the mixture should look like as we go. If we decide that we want more crackers in this, we'll also put that up in the ingredients list that goes on the website, thecookalongpodcast.com.
Yes.
So you'll be able to see the pictures there and the ingredient list. But at the moment, we're going with 1 sleeve of Ritz crackers.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be using some green onions, chopped looks like about 1/4 of a cup, and some chopped fresh dill. It looks like it's going to be about 1/8 of a cup or so. It's about 4 green onions and a couple sprigs of dill. Oh, I almost forgot. The liquid smoke that is recommended.
Yes, and if you want to make them as good as possible, it costs more, but you could also substitute the liquid smoke for a little bit of smoked salmon. Just mixed in with the canned salmon, it can be really good. It can add a nice smoky flavor. But if you're like us and we're trying to save money, just use a drop or 2 of liquid smoke and it'll be just as good.
Okay. How much smoked salmon, if someone wanted to go that route? What would you recommend?
Half a package per can or so.
Okay.
I was told by my mom when I asked about this recipe that you want about a third total of your salmon to be smoked salmon. If you're going that route, which we're not.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. We're going to be frying in avocado oil. Not sure if you count that as equipment in this instance. What are some of the alternatives?
Well, you can also use peanut oil, but we're using avocado because it has a high smoke point.
Yeah, you were looking at the blog on the website about that, right?
That's right. That's under tips and fixes, right?
Yeah. It's really handy. Tells you, how hot you can get an oil before it starts to smoke and make your kitchen hazy.
Yes, and I really don't like a smoky kitchen. The smell and the fire alarm going off can be a little much.
Fair enough. We'll be using avocado oil, and then you may want some sort of sauce to dip these in or to pour over them. You may also want little buns. These are going to be more like slider size.
Yeah, they are. They're easier to hold together that way. If you make them too big, they can fall apart. Another name for these is salmon burgers, but we've always called them salmon patties because we didn't use a bun for them. We just ate them as they were.
They're good enough to eat without a bun.
Exactly.
Love that. All right.
Let's get started.
Before you get started, you need to know your do-aheads.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so make sure you chop up any seasonings that need to be chopped, like the green onion and the dill. You're welcome to add other seasonings into this, but we're going to keep it fairly simple here today.
This is a really easy recipe.
Let's get to work.
Yeah, so I am going to open up this can. I opened the other one ahead of time.
Where does she keep that strainer?
I actually have a story about salmon patties.
Oh?
Yes, so we used to take a yearly camping trip. One of those years, we decided to make salmon patties because it was and still is a favorite. So we were in our camper and we went to go eat our salmon patties around the fire. And I was about 7 or 8 years old. So I set my salmon patties on the ground next to the fire because there wasn't really a place to set them. And I went to go get some sauce or something. And I stepped on the patty.
Oh, no.
So, of course, that one was ruined, but the dog loved it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me this recipe is dog approved?
This recipe is certified dog approved.
You heard it here first, folks. All right, so I'm straining out this salmon from the can. I thought I saw maybe some bone in here.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. It's the spine of salmon. Yeah, so let's get that out of there.
No, look at it. It completely crumbles in my fingers. We can leave that in there.
Should we?
Yeah, we can totally do that. My mom mentioned this when she was telling me about the recipe. She said it's good calcium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all we need to do is make sure that it's completely broken up. It completely disintegrates when I crush it.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, we don't need to take that out.
Another step here, I guess, then, in the recipe, that if you are going to keep the bones in, to make sure that they get properly crushed.
Yes.
I won't blame anybody who doesn't want them in there, but we are going to get our calcium today.
Yes, we are.
Your mother did a lot of canning.
That's true, yes.
Did she can fish, too?
She did, yes. She canned tuna one year. She found a good deal at the fish market, tuna that was on sale. Crazy good deal. I don't remember how much it was, but she bought a ton of tuna and she canned it in canning jars. And for years after, we had canned tuna that was way better quality than the canned tuna you could get at the supermarket. Tasted great. It was bigger quantity jars than what you can get at the supermarket. And she left the bones in and everything, and they disintegrated just like the canned salmon here.
It's amazing. Do you think that's has to do with the cooking process of the canning, or?
I think it's the high pressure of canning that doesn't really pulverize the bones, but kind of makes them like soft and easy to break apart.
I remember that time we were at...
We were at a restaurant.
We were at a very fancy
and they served
restaurant.
us...
It was the skeleton of a fish.
It was deep fried.
Yes.
It was like a cracker.
It was. It was like,
delicious.
I'm just straight up eating a skeleton right now.
Yeah.
Something so wild. And it was actually surprisingly satisfying.
Yes, and it made you feel very metal and badass.
Oh, I love that. Yes. All right.
So
I think
we've
I've
got this
that
all
crushed up.
incorporated and crushed, and in our big bowl here. It's looking great. We still haven't added any of the seasonings or the crackers or the egg, but right now it looks great.
Okay. Well, what's the next step then?
So the next step is we're going to take our sleeve of Ritz crackers and put it in a Ziploc baggie and get a rolling pin and break them up that way.
Okay. That'll keep them from making a big old mess.
Exactly.
It's great. Let me get out the rolling pin. It's in one of these drawers. Oh, where is it? It wasn't in one of those drawers. Well, I want to crush these. I really do. If you were a rolling pin.
Where would I be?
Yes.
You know, we could just break these up with our hands if we can't find the rolling pin.
I suppose so.
Yeah, this is going pretty well. Just breaking it up with my fingers through the bag.
Why are we using Ritz crackers specifically?
My mom said Ritz crackers because she likes the taste of Ritz crackers better than saltines. They just add a little bit more buttery taste. And she said saltines, if you prefer that, is fine. But we like Ritz crackers in this household.
That's true. Do you think like a club cracker would work?
Oh, yes. Club crackers are delicious as well. I think that would work just as well.
How fine do you want to get these crushed?
Use your best judgment. As fine as you can manage, I would say. But don't worry too much over it.
Wouldn't want to run into a chunk of cracker in your patty.
Exactly. Thank you for your assistance.
You're welcome. You know, it's kind of fun.
It is. It makes your brain feel good.
This feels like the kind of task also you could be like, oh,
do the kids want to help? Yeah.
Yeah, give them the... And since it's in a Ziploc, you can just have them crush it.
Okay, I think that's good enough.
All right.
All right, and now we're adding the Ritz crackers to the salmon.
Okay.
Just dump it all in there. And I know, Horatio, you don't like to use your hands. I'm going to use a fork. Just a quick mix up to get it all incorporated. And then now it's time for the egg.
Okay.
So we're adding 2 eggs because we're adding 2 cans, correct?
1 egg per can. That's what you told me.
Yes, that's what I said.
My mother would say that you should crack your eggs into a separate bowl.
Oh, yes, that's true. I should be doing that.
She had an episode where things went very awry. She's mentioned it more than once, so I'm sure if you listen to the Cook Along podcast regularly, you've almost certainly heard of the incident. The incident.
Call me crazy, but I think this already smells really good.
I'm not going to call you crazy. That would be foolish of me. We do live together.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so look at that. It's already starting to stick together a little bit.
Okay, so is this when we should start adding in the green onion and dill?
Yes. Just dump it all in.
Okay.
And what I love about this recipe is that it's really versatile. You don't need to add green onion or dill. You can add whatever seasonings or herbs you want.
I definitely would be tempted by some smoked paprika, but we have smoke flavor going in now?
Yes.
All right.
Be really careful with that. It's really concentrated.
1 drop per can, is that right?
Yes. And oh my gosh, that doesn't have a dropper.
No, it doesn't.
So we're going to have to be very careful.
That should be the right amount. I kind of poured a little into the lid
Okay, that's a good idea.
to avoid spilling, because you don't want to overwhelm the sense.
Yeah, that's plenty.
That's plenty. Yeah, be careful with your liquid smoke if you're using it.
Smell that. It smells really good.
You can smell the Ritz crackers, the salmon,
And the smoke are all coming together.
Wowzers.
It's going to smell even better when we start frying them up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for these.
Me too.
You know, I think about salmon patties and salmon burgers, and I'm like, yeah, that's good. Then I see it and smell it, and I'm like, oh boy. That's when I really get excited about it.
Okay, so we've added the crackers. We've broken up the bones. We've added the egg. I think we're ready to form these into patties.
Okay. Are we forming them and then starting to fry them like one at a time right away?
What you want to do is you want to make a small test patty to make sure that you're on the right temperature and you have enough oil in the pan. It's a good thing to do for a lot of recipes, in my opinion.
Speaking of the right temperature, do you know what temperature we should be aiming for here?
My mom just told me medium heat.
Medium heat?
Whatever that means.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn on our stove here to medium-ish, maybe a 5.5 or so on the big burner. We're going to be using a cast iron pan for our frying pan today, but we'll need that to heat up. And since we're using the avocado oil, we probably don't want too much, right?
Right.
Just enough to kind of smooth things along.
And tell me, Horatio, do we add the oil now or when the pan is already heated up?
Generally, I find that if you add the oil now...
Then you can tell when the pan is heated up?
Yeah, you can look for a shimmer in the oil. I mean, if you get a pan hot enough and you add the right kind of oil, it could ignite.
Oh my gosh.
We're not cooking anywhere near that hot today.
No, I think we should add a little bit more. Horatio added maybe like the size of a quarter, and it has spread out a little bit, but I think we need a little bit more, so I'm adding just a dollop more.
We're going to be cooking multiple of these at once.
Okay, so now we have 2 little oil spots on the pan, and overall I think it's about the size of my palm once it's spread out.
I'd probably say that we have 2 teaspoons of oil in.
Yeah. We didn't measure it, so we don't know for sure, but that's a good guess.
Measuring things? So you said we should make a test patty.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. A test patty can be helpful.
Okay. Well, how much do you think we'll be putting into a patty?
I would say 1/4 of a cup.
Okay, so these are on the smaller size.
Like you said, they're like sliders.
I suppose you could use a measuring cup as a scoop of sorts to make sure you get the right amount.
If you want.
Might add that to your equipment list.
Yes, good idea. So I'm scooping up 1/4 of a cup of the mixture here, and I'm putting it in the palm of my hand and just kind of like squeezing it together and forming it into a ball. It's a little bit bigger than a ping pong ball.
Yeah,
what
maybe
would you
like
say?
golf ball size.
Golf ball size, perfect, yeah. So I'm putting the ball in the center of the pan, and then we're going to squish it down with a spatula.
All right, I'll squish it down for you. How thick do we want this?
That looks good. Oh, see, that's why we do a test patty. It just completely broke up.
That just stuck to the spatula.
Yeah, it did.
Maybe I should be using a plastic one after all.
Maybe so. Maybe we can save this one by just trying to keep it together in the pan, but...
You know what my mother would say?
What?
That one is for you to eat as soon as possible.
I think we need more oil in this pan as well.
Okay.
I kind of salvaged it in the pan. Just use the spatula to kind of form it together as best as you can. You might have the same issue that we just had where it kind of falls apart, but it's not the end of the world.
What are we looking for here?
We are looking for a golden brown.
I'm going to turn it down a little bit. It's starting to smoke a little.
Yeah, good idea.
Just to say it's quite hot.
Yes.
Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. Let me get a picture of that.
Yes, get a picture.
That is a beautiful brown color. This is our first one that was broken a moment ago? Seriously?
Yeah. So we might have it up a little bit hot right now because that was only a few seconds and then it was done.
Yeah, so I'm turning it down to like a 4.
So like medium-low heat.
Yeah. To be fair, I think if you were doing like several of them at once, you might want the pan a little hotter.
Good point. I'm going to check the bottom here. Just be careful that you don't let it break up, or you could flip it back over again. Oh, no, that side's not done yet. Now that it's kind of fried on one side, it's going to stick together a little bit easier. I've noticed that when I flipped it, it didn't fall apart quite as much.
Well, that's the egg at work there for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what? I still think this one can be for you to eat as soon as you want.
Yeah.
It looks good.
It looks really good and smells even better. Okay, checking to see if it's browned. That's good enough. Yeah, that's perfect. All right.
If you want, you can patty them up and I will...
And you'll fry them?
I'll fry them.
Sounds good.
Oof, but we want to hurry.
Yes, I will have to hurry here.
This pan is starting to smoke a little.
Yes, and we don't want the fire alarm to go off. How about I form it into a patty with my hands?
Uh-huh.
And that way we don't have to do it with a spatula, and
No,
it's
no need
less
to
likely
squish it
to
down.
break
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Love that idea.
There you go.
Alrighty. If you spread them around in the pan, that should work pretty well too, getting multiple in there. Look at these little patties. They're so cute. Oh my god. Can't believe we just said that together.
Yes.
I like this recipe
Make room for the new one.
because it really does lend itself to cooking together, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, you can have someone on the patty making station and someone on the frying station.
Someone on the eating station. And it sounds like the kind of thing that a lot of kids, if they don't have sensory issues, would just be like, yes, can I get my hands dirty?
Exactly.
I get to crush crackers and then get my fingers into the goop?
Goopy fingers.
I don't know why kids like that. Not this kid. When I was a kid, that was not my thing.
I loved, as a kid, making, like, mud patties. This is kind of the same kind of feeling.
I've made mud patties before as a kid. We had a creek in our backyard, so I think maybe I was able to do that because I could rinse my hands very quickly.
Yeah. All right, we have, like, 4 in the pan right now, so I'm going to cool my jets.
Looking to get them nice and golden brown. Since we got oil in the pan, after they've cooked for just a moment, they actually do move around just fine, it seems.
Good.
What kind of a sauce do you like with these?
You're going to think that I'm crazy, but I love green goddess dressing.
Green goddess dressing. Oh!
Yes, one of my favorite dressings. I think they go together amazingly.
You know, I'm not going to call you crazy. Again, that seems unwise. But it's not what I would have thought of at first, but I think it makes sense. A salad dressing is just really just a sauce for your leaves. It's a leaf sauce.
Yeah.
Give these little patties a spank.
No, don't spank your patty.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah. I realized that I never told you how much thickness.
Oh, yes. Yeah. How thick are they?
They are about a finger width. Like, put your finger next to it. It's about that thick.
Don't put your finger next to it in the pan.
No, don't burn yourself.
Yeah.
But when you're making them, you can hold your pointer finger next to them, and they should be about the same thickness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe like, I don't know, half an inch thick.
If that. That one's done.
It sure is.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these
Golden
other
brown
ones
on both
probably
sides.
are as well.
So I'll add another one to the pan
That
here.
one's getting close. I know your mother has made them previously, and I have had them before, but she wasn't adding the dill and green onion.
No, we were just doing, we weren't doing very much seasoning at all. I think they're good on their own, but I think adding the green onion and the dill kicks it up a notch.
I also note that the canned salmon, and a lot of smoked salmons too, they have salt in them already.
Yeah.
And the saltines do as well. So they definitely have salt in them. I could see a world where you add some pepper. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are dreaming of these with like some sriracha mayo or something like that.
Yeah, something spicy.
I would love to put these on, say, a little like Hawaiian bun cut in half.
Yes.
With some arugula and maybe just some mayo, maybe some green goddess dressing, something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Kind of wish we'd thought of that ahead of time.
Yeah, I almost mentioned it.
Before you put another one in the pan, I think I'm going to want to re-up the oil.
Okay, sure.
It's starting to look a little dry in the...
Yeah, and they're not getting quite as golden.
So let me get these out of the pan. We know the temperature of the pan's okay now, so it should be fine to add some oil at this point. I'm really tempted to take a bite.
Me too. They look so tempting.
Plan for about 20 of these little guys. They should feed a good crowd.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got sides or buns.
Yeah, or they are the side.
I suppose. What would you serve this with?
If this was the side or with a side?
Either way.
Okay, so with a side, with these as the main course, I would do sauteed Brussels sprouts. Fry them up in a pan, get them all browned just like these are. Some oil. I think that could be really good. And the smaller the Brussels sprout, the more tasty they are.
Yeah, the little baby ones.
Baby ones.
You know, if you haven't had Brussels sprouts since the, 90s, they're not the same anymore. They taste way better. They've genetically been cultivated to be less bitter.
That's really interesting. Can you fit one last one in your pan?
I sure can.
That plate looks so good. We've got a plate of salmon patties that are done, and they're just calling to me.
As they should.
So hungry.
So, what do you think you would change to make these vegetarian? I had you there for a second.
I was all ready to answer your question seriously, and then I just had to look at you like, are you crazy?
The way you opened your mouth, just like, well, you...
Not sure I can answer this.
Well, you're going to need fake egg and fake fish.
I don't know if that's a thing. All right, here you go. That's the last one.
That is it. You always want to do cleanup, especially with fish, because it's going to stink things up otherwise. If you do find yourself looking for a good side to go with these, or to make these the side to something else, may I recommend checking out thecookalongpodcast.com?
Yeah, there's a lot of great recipes on the Cook Along podcast.
I've made a good number of them. One of my favorite things was the risotto.
Oh my god, the risotto was so good. We made it for my mother and her partner, and they just ranted and raved about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't unfounded. It was a really good recipe.
It is on the harder side.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of steps to it and a lot of, like, stirring and stuff.
Yeah, it's not complicated, really. It's just
There's a lot to it. I'm so excited to eat these.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So these are almost all done.
I think that one's done.
If you've held on with us this long, you're probably at about the same point, too, where you're finishing up your fry. Of course, you may very well have doubled the recipe. We actually have a couple more cans of salmon we could have used, but I think that would have been way too many.
Yeah, especially because we have so much right now. I think more would have just been too much.
Yeah. And with my mother out of town, she can't help us eat them.
There's no one else we can give these to right now.
I just turned off the stove. Look at this platter full of delicious-looking salmon patties. Should we take a bite?
Yes, let's take a bite.
Let's find one that had some time to sit on the plate a little.
Yeah, maybe this one in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I will take the first bite.
How'd that smoke go?
It's really good. I don't think we added too much. And like I said before, we got the like buttery flavor of the Ritz in there. And I don't think the green onion flavor came through very well, but they make it look really pretty.
It does. It does. That green splash.
The dill is a more subtle flavor, but it's really good still. Yeah, I think overall they turned out really well.
Oh, can I have a bite?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yep. I'm definitely happy with these. All right. Well, I'm going to scrounge around until I find, I don't know, maybe some green goddess if we're lucky. and we'll get to enjoying these. I hope you're doing the same. Thank you so much for listening to the Cook Along podcast. We had a great time making these with you. I hope that you've had a good time listening. If you enjoyed this recipe, or you think there's someone you know who would love to try these out, please share. The Cook Along podcast is available at thecookalongpodcast.com. You can also find it through most podcast streaming services, if not all of them. Share with a friend, ask them to give it a try and see what all the fuss is about. And if you have any questions, you can always send to the Facebook page or leave a comment on the recipe itself on thecookalongpodcast.com.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm really glad that we got to do one of these together.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening. Happy cooking.